I like to sort of, so when I go to the place, I like to sit and go watch them split. Yes, I bet you have.
Testing 1, 2, 3, 4. Testing.
That's better.
This is me.
And congratulations on the new job. That's great.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's kind of weird for me that I'm just the pianist.
You know, you do a lot more than just a piano.
I do a lot.
So
There's
it's
a lot more to the job than just sitting and playing piano. But
still, it's not music director and that's
I'm glad I'm there too.
Yay! And isn't it great?
I'm sad I can't be here too.
Right, just we could clown you.
You guys would go on Mondays. These Friday nights and Saturday mornings I'm in Pullman. Sundays I'm in Pullman. It's like Sunday afternoon.
We could just switch. A lot of people would enjoy switching to Sunday afternoon. Sleeping in, having a nice luxurious breakfast. We used to have 2 services.
Yeah.
There was a
Not
time.
just was doing afternoons because when they were renting space from the Lutheran church up. They were doing afternoons. But a lot of people were alive for that. So
We love Sunday morning. Pancake time.
everyone wants a Sunday morning church time. Means I seldom get to go out on Friday, Saturday nights.
You know, I was in my office till 9 just doing paperwork. Amen. Some espresso time.
Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the service of worship at the Unitarian Universalist Church of Tucson. My name is Reverend Bethany Russell Lowe, and I have the great pleasure and honor of serving as minister of this congregation. Our community strives to be as varied as the blooms of the Sonoran Desert. Whoever you are, whoever you have been, and whoever you are on the path to becoming, I invite you to bring your whole self here and now. We are a covenantal community, which means that we make promises to each other about how we are with one another when we are together. And in these times of pandemic, wearing a mask indoors, practicing some degree of social distancing, whether that is asked for, maybe by these wave buttons, and getting vaccinated are all part of our covenant with one another. If you are attending worship here in person in the room today, our hope is that you stay in covenant with us by getting vaccinated or by being vaccinated already. And if you are not vaccinated or cannot be vaccinated, if you are not and choosing not to be, we hope you'll join us online next week. And if you cannot be vaccinated, come chat with me and we can just make sure that we can navigate that covenant together. I extend a special welcome this morning to any visitors and invite you to fill out a guest information card. There'll be a link to that in the YouTube chat right now. And there are also clipboards with those cards near the doors you came in if you're here in person. We will meet on Zoom for social hour right after the service, and there will also be an in-person social hour out on the patio. Please join us for either one of those. And this morning is a question box service. Anybody ever done one of these? Wow, fewer than I expected. Okay, so this is a new thing. This is a question box service, which means I have not prepared my sermon. You get to tell me what the sermon is this morning by asking questions. Whatever questions you might want your minister to answer. They could be theological questions, they could be personal questions that are appropriate. They could be wild questions. Somebody please throw me some wild cards and see what happens with those. And because we are also featuring our pianist this morning, if you have a question for Chris, please put it in the pile. Yes. And if you have a question, Jamili over on the right side of the room here has note cards and pencils. Go ahead, raise a hand if you want those supplies, and then give your questions to Jamili. She's going to feed them to me. If you're joining us online, put your questions in the YouTube chat, and Jamili will be monitoring that, and those questions will come to me. If I don't answer your question this morning, don't fear. It might be a future sermon topic. I'm going to put a few of these away to preach more full prepared sermons next time. So please fill out those questions so that I can say something this morning. And also this morning, we are celebrating and highlighting our pianist, Chris Tackett. Chris initially joined our worship team in December 2019 for what was supposed to be a short-term contract through Easter 2020. And y'all know what happened in the beginning of 2020, right? Well, his role continued with us, and he became the Baja 4 music coordinator and a really integral part of the Baja 4 worship team and our team here at UUCT. Earlier this church year, Chris accepted the position of music director at Mountain Vista UU congregation, our sibling congregation in the Northwest Side, and he cannot be in two places at once. So as we are moving towards in-person services where he needs to be at Mountain Vista and we need a pianist here live, we are having an amicable parting. But as I've said to you and you've said in different ways, we're not done with you yet. You're not done with us yet. We are staying friends, staying close. But so this morning's service, we'll have some moments to highlight Chris, to show you all just the magic of his music ministry. And so we can all witness that and just notice it a little bit more. And I think we will have a little treat on the patio afterwards here in person. So please, if you're here in person, join us and celebrate Chris and keep the highlight on him a little bit more. Welcome. We are so glad that you are here. It is good to have you back on the piano here, Chris. A concrete ceiling burst open this week, opening up the sky, the world for little Black girls everywhere to see where their brilliance can take them. In her speech of appreciations after she was confirmed as the next Associate Justice of the Supreme Court of the United States, the Honorable Ketanji Jackson Brown was clear that she did not pave her road to the Supreme Court. The road was paved for her by the ancestors who fought for justice and who left little cracks in that ceiling for her, big cracks in that ceiling for her. She said that she was, quote, the lucky inheritor of the dream of liberty and justice for all. And we now are the witnesses to her inheritance. And also, we are the inheritors of that dream ourselves, that dream now more realized, not done yet, far from it. And so we are still far from that dream. And we can celebrate this week, this morning. We can have great joy at what happened in the generation since segregation. We can know that this joy will propel us forward, will sustain us in hard times. This joy can propel us to find liberty and justice for all, knowing that all won't mean all until all are free from all that binds them. Come, let us rekindle the sparks of liberty that are our birthrights. Come, let us remember the inherent worthiness of all creation. Come, let us remember what it will take to get us all free. Come, let us worship together.
If you are joining us on YouTube, you have a chalice or a candle nearby, please light it with me now, as Reverend Bethany lights our chalice here in Holland. And will everyone join me in these words of chalice lighting by Reverend Leslie Takashi? All that we have never ever loved, and all that we have ever been, stands with us on the brink of all that we aspire to create. A deeper peace, a larger love, a more embracing hope, a deeper joy in this life we share.
We still find ourselves in that uncomfortable place between pandemic and endemic. I'm getting some feedback about mic placement. What do you need me to do? Stand further back, speak closer, even closer still? Okay. So, and now can you bring my voice down just a little for in the space? So I'm going to sing a song to you and I'm going to ask you to do this. Would you hum along with me as we go? This song has 4 parts to it. Some of you will know the song really well. It's going to be hard for you not to sing along and join me as we get to the separate parts of it. Once I hear a hum in the room, I'm going to sing the next part. If you are at home, sing to your heart's content. Just belt out this tune, if you would, please. It's a very fitting tune for today, a day focused on questions, because this is a song about fundamental questions. Song is, where do we come from? And presumably that's where we're headed, key-wise. He's brilliant, as I will say later. Where do we come from? What are we? Where are we going? Where do we come from? What are we? Where are we going? Where do we come from? Where do we come from? Mystery, mystery. Life is a riddle and a mystery. Mystery, mystery. Life is a riddle and a mystery. Where do we come from? Where are we going? Where do we come from? Where are we going? Thank you.
It's a good thing this mic is flexible. So not to sound too much like a comedy show, but what do an ancient Greek myth and a radio station have in common? An ancient Greek myth and a radio station. Hold on to it. We're going to watch a video and it might give you a clue.
The paradoxical nature of this trait was personified for the ancient Greeks in the mythical figure of Pandora. According to legend, she was the first mortal woman whose blazing curiosity set a chain of earth-shattering events in motion. Pandora was breathed into being by Hephaestus, god of fire, who enlisted the help of his divine companions to make her extraordinary. From Aphrodite, she received the capacity for deep emotion. From Hermes, she gained mastery over language. Athena gave the gift of fine craftsmanship and attention to detail, and Hermes gave her her name. Finally, Zeus bestowed two gifts on Pandora. The first was the trait of curiosity, which settled in her spirit and sent her eagerly out into the world. The second was a heavy box, ornately curved, heavy to hold, and screwed tightly shut. But the contents, Zeus told her, were not for mortal eyes. She was not to open the box under any circumstance. On Earth, Pandora met and fell in love with Epimetheus, a talented Titan who had been given the task of designing the natural world by Zeus. He had worked alongside his brother Prometheus, who created the first humans, but was eternally punished for giving them fire. Epimetheus missed his brother desperately, but in Pandora, he found another fiery-hearted soul for companionship. Pandora brimmed with excitement at life on Earth. She was also easily distracted and could be impatient, given her thirst for knowledge and desire to question her surroundings. Often her mind wandered to the contents of the sealed box. What treasure was so great it could never be seen by human eyes, and why was it in her care? Her fingers itched to pry it open. Sometimes she was convinced she heard voices whispering and the contents rattling around inside, as if straining to be free. Its enigma became maddening. Over time, Pandora became more and more obsessed with the box. It seemed there was a force beyond her control that drew her to the contents, which echoed her name louder and louder. One day she could bear it no longer. Stealing away from Epimetheus, she stared at the mystifying box. She'd take one glance inside, then be able to rid her mind of it forever. But at the first crack of the lid, the box burst open. Monstrous creatures and horrendous sounds rushed out in a cloud of smoke and swirled around her, screeching and cackling. Filled with terror, Pandora clawed desperately at the air to direct them back into their prison. But the creatures surged out in a gruesome cloud. She felt a wave of foreboding as they billowed away. Zeus had used the box as a vessel for all the forces of evil and suffering he'd created, and once released, they were uncontainable. As she wept, Pandora became aware of a sound echoing from within the box. This was not the eerie whispering of demons, but a light tinkling that seemed to ease her anguish. When she once again lifted the lid and peered in, a warm beam of light rose out and fluttered away. As she watched it flickering in the wake of the evil she'd unleashed, Pandora's pain was eased. She knew that opening the box was irreversible, but alongside the strife, she'd set hope forth to temper its effects. Today, Pandora's box suggests the extreme consequences of tampering with the unknown. But Pandora's burning curiosity also suggests the duality that lies at the heart of human inquiry. Are we bound to investigate everything we don't know, to mine the earth for more? Or are there some mysteries that are better left unsolved?
So, what do an ancient Greek myth and a radio station have in common? The name Pandora, exactly. The name Pandora. And the originators of the radio station Pandora mined this myth for that name. Their goal is to give us a never-ending new sense of music, because there's a lot of music out there. So why the Pandora myth today, of all days? Just as a reminder not to forget that with the uncertainty that comes with change and loss, so comes hope. Even though Pandora had released the evils of the world that we have today, she also released the hope into it. Worry and fear ask us to look around the world and see only the monsters that emerged out of the box. Curiosity and imagination ask us to look around the world and see the hope. Reverend Kimberly Dubois says, we can lean into worry's opposite, into curiosity. She preaches where worry says, oh no, what is going to happen? Curiosity says, oh wow, I wonder what is going to happen. Maybe more is the complex reality that we have both feelings at once. Daniel Tiger tells us it's okay to feel two feelings at the same time. Worry and hope together. And that's how I feel as we celebrate the change in our relationship with Chris today. So let's grieve and play. Can you tell it's my first time? The words for our reading today come from religious educator Sophia Lyon Foss. Some beliefs are like walled gardens. They encourage exclusiveness and feelings of being especially privileged. Other beliefs are expansive and lead the way into wider and deeper sympathies. Some beliefs are like shadows, clouding children's days with fears of the unknown calamities. Other beliefs are like sunshine, blessing children with the warmth of happiness. Some beliefs are divisive, some beliefs are devices, separating the saved from the unsaved, friends from enemies. Other beliefs are bonds in world community, where sincere differences beautify the pattern. Some beliefs are like blinders, shutting off the power to choose one's own direction. Other beliefs are like gateways, opening wide vistas for exploration. Some beliefs weaken a person's selfhood. They blight the resources, they blight the growth of resourcefulness. Other beliefs nurture self-confidence, enrich the feeling of personal worth. Some beliefs are rigid, like the body of death, impotent in changing the world. Other beliefs
are pliable, like the young sapling ever growing with the upward thrust of life.
Thank you, Watercolor. I'm so glad that you are joining our worship associate team. Yes, Jamili, exactly what you all are doing. If you have questions, put them up in the air and Jamili will collect them. And Jamili, I could take a few more for this section if you need it. Okay. This is a good one. Okay. The first question I have here is, why do we say worship, quote unquote worship, when we aren't a doctrinal community? What are we worshiping? I've answered some of this for you before, and I'm going to say the same answer I've said before. Maybe it's not satisfactory, but for me, worship is an act, not of worshiping to something, but of focusing on that which is worthy of our attention. So for me, worship is an hour a week when we get to try to focus on things that are most worthy of our attention. For me, that's why I use that worship word. I also use it to untangle ourselves from some of the very strict definitions we have of traditionally socioculturally Christian words. How can we include, this might be for Chris. Let's save this one for a second. Jamili, do you have? Okay, good. Give that to Chris. And after I do one or two, Chris, that might be a question for you. Is there an afterlife after death? What do you, as a you think it is? My answer to this personally is I don't care. Is that for me, orienting towards what I can do in the life I know I have is more worthy of my personal attention. Again, these are personal questions. You might have a different answer. I hope some of you have different answers. But for me, like I haven't gotten my mind wrapped up around all of the things I could be doing and how to influence those things in a way. So the afterlife for me is like, well, what happens, happens. I don't have control. I'm intrigued by some ideas of reincarnation. I've never quite settled personally in my personal theology, but there's something very scientific in the reincarnation, very biological in the idea that we return to something and then there's a larger creation that holds us and stuff is remade out of stuff that exists. I think there's interest there. But afterlife, I don't care. It's not, right now, not an important question for me, but it's important for you. And I want to hear your answers to these too. Maybe at social hour, you can ask each other these questions because some of these are pretty personal questions.
We seem to have some themes emerging. So I'm going to give you one set of themes.
Okay.
That top.
The theme is, why isn't the Trinity recognized? What? Okay. Okay, I'll introduce two. Why isn't the Trinity recognized? Unitarian Universalism is a post-Christian denomination, which means that we have roots in both Unitarianism and Universalism, which at one point in time were two Christian traditions. And in 1961, those came together. The Universalists at that time were still pretty Christian in terms of believing in a traditionally Protestant Christian doctrine. Unitarians at that time were mostly, although not all, humanist leaning. And in 1961, the two denominations came together and made an intentional choice to be post-Christian, so keeping those Christian roots, but being inspired by a broad array of religious and secular sources. So we gather under a big tent of belief. We don't have that doctrine. Some people here might believe in the Trinity. I think the Trinity, I almost became a Trinitarian in seminary. You could argue that I still am. Catherine Lacuna, who is a Catholic theologian writing in the 1940s and 1960s, she died way too early in her mid 40s. she said that the Trinity, the theological concept of the Trinity, is God demonstrating to us how to be in relationship. So God being in mind, body, and spirit is how the Trinity is this. And so the way that God, Jesus, and the Holy Spirit, or whatever words you use for those, relate to one another can be a model for us for how we can link our mind, our bodies, and our spirits, and how we can align them. I'm really captivated by that idea. I almost became a Trinitarian because of this idea that that we can model our wholeness of our own personal relationships and our relating to each other through the Trinity. I don't know if that's what question you were asking, but that's the answer I have. What is Good Friday besides a day off from school? We want the theological answer here?
The set is theological, so yes.
Yes. Good Friday is the Christian recognition of the day in that liturgical calendar that they remember the death of Jesus on the cross. Yeah, for some of us, it's just a day off from school. For others of us, it's a sacred observation of the ending of Lent, of mourning the death, but also kind of in the story that Jamili pulled out of Pandora's box, there's a mourning of Jesus's death on the cross, a mourning of that martyrdom, but also this feeling of expecting, knowing what will coming, knowing that the Messiah, the prophecy of the Messiah of Jesus has been fulfilled, and that there is a second coming. This prophecy is unfolding. So there's a complexity in that day, but it is true, ultimately a day of mourning for Christians.
Is that the whole set?
That is the whole set.
Okay, do we have time for one more heavy set?
I've got another one here too. Let me see your other set, and then I'll see which one I want to do.
Woo, you don't ask easy questions, just saying.
Okay. Yeah, y'all are good. Okay, future sermon topics. And I will promise they will inspire them. Sermons are conversations. All sermons are conversations. This is literally just in real time, but every sermon is a conversation back, answering the questions you've asked that week, that month, that year, right? I'm going to choose to answer the how do we integrate back into our church home question, because I think that's on a lot of our hearts and minds. We're doing it right now. You're showing up, you're here. Right? We had a long time of being physically distant from one another and struggled to find ways to stay connected. But I think we can keep showing up for each other, prioritizing relationship, not work. We can prioritize being there for each other, coming to church, even if you can't figure out the sign-up genius, even if you haven't been here in 2.5 years or longer. I think we can integrate back that way. And I think we also need to recognize in this reintegration, get in touch with how our bodies are feeling. Are we holding anxiety? Are we holding worry? Are we holding resentment? Are we holding anger? What are we feeling in this space? And then be intentional about what we bring here and what we leave here and what we let go of here. Because this building, this literal room, needs us to reintegrate back into it too. And we have a choice whether to bring what we bring here and what we leave here and what we let go of or let off into a different space. Jamili picked this last question from, Chris, do you have that question?
I have a couple, actually. Is this it? There we go. The most intriguing one out of the stack I was given was music from other cultures. Is this a possibility? And am I far enough away from you all? Do you mind?
Okay.
Music from other cultures, is this a possibility? Very, very much so. We walk the line a lot of times between what Brian and I do is we want to try and bring as much music from all around the world and from all over the place as we can. However, we're also human beings. The problem that we get into a lot of times is we may want to bring and present music to you that it's not necessarily our own native language, so to speak. So we have to be super careful that we walk the line between doing something respectfully and doing a good job of it versus being kind of appropriative, which we have to be super, super careful of. I'm also working very hard up at MVUU, and I know Brian's doing the same thing here, to find guest artists and guest people from outside our own community to come in and bring different things. Plus, I'm also discovering that, good gravy, y'all are some talented and amazing, capable individuals, and so many of you have so many different things to offer. That sort of piggybacks on another question I'm going to answer more fully later, but you want to get involved, you want to see more music from around the world, you want to see more things from all over the place, please bring them to us. We want to hear them, we want to see them, and we want to learn as much as we can right alongside of you. And that fits very neatly with my own belief, which has gotten me in trouble in some other church jobs. Any music, any art brought with an open heart and with an open spirit is sacred. Everything is sacred. And that to me fits very, very well with the UU outlook on the world. I love the scripture readings that come from all over and not just one book. And the same way, I love being free and being able to bring you music from all over and not just the very narrow world of church music.
Thank you, Chris. And in that spirit, there's a request to offer a prayer here for individual healing, each and every one of us in the midst of a broken world. So I'll invite you now into a spirit of prayer, contemplation, meditation, whatever is your own way of centering down. Spirit of life, spirit of love that holds us in our brokenness. Be with us now as we remember, as we commit to knowing and holding with us always that we are worthy of love and life and wholeness. Be with us too as we feel those broken parts of ourselves, as we witness brokenness in the world. Know that we are not irreparably broken, and also that suffering does exist. Open us up to the possibility that healing is on the horizon for us, for our world, for our community. Help us remember that we were born good. Those seeds of goodness reside in us, and so too all of creation is good and has those seeds within it. Let us hold this brokenness of the world because it is true. And let us hold the possibility of healing for us and the world because that too is true. In the name of all that is holy and sacred, I pray. Amen. Our earth is strong. It can hold our pain and our joy, our love and our anger. Our shared bowl, which we use for joys and sorrows each week, is strong enough to hold the big rocks, our collective celebrations and mournings, and also the smaller stones that we will soon add to signify our individual joys and sorrows. We who live in the desert know that water is a life-sustaining and scarce resource. We pour water from a plastic jug similar to the ones used by those seeking to ensure greater access to water in the desert, like our ministry partners, No More Deaths. If you have a joy or sorrow to share this week, I invite you to go to menti.com, whether you're here in person or if you're joining us on YouTube. And the code that you're going to put in on Menti will be on the screen very soon. If you are here in person and don't have a smart device or can't access it, Brian Moon, has offered to put in your joy and sorrow for you, so you can come see him. He's the tall guy in the blue shirt here. And also, if you're here in person, you are welcome to come up to the table while Chris plays our music and put a stone into the bowl to symbolize your joy or your sorrow. The pebbles in our bowl will create ripples of hope. And I'll read out loud now, if our AV team can click through them, your answers, reading out loud so that it is accessible to all. Middle, there it is. Good healing and well-being. Healing and forgiveness for someone I am estranged from and their family. Special friends are on our hearts and minds this morning. As are old friendships that survive the passing of time and divergent experiences. Relearning to be present. Me too. How lucky we have been. But I also feel full of fear for the world we leave our grandchildren. There is too much noise in our world. How to quiet it down peacefully. How? Recognizing how judgmental I am and wondering how I can assume positive intent in others and how I can be a better team player. We've been there. Why aren't I grieving the conflict with my brother that has kept me away from him and my nephew for almost half a year now? Prayers for your journey forward. If I move away, will I isolate myself forever? I invite you to take these deep thoughts with us as we continue into our words of prayer, which watercolor will read.
Our words of prayer come from Reverend Audette Fulbright Fulson, called Prayer for the Morning. Did you rise this morning broken and hung over, with weariness and pain, and rage tattered from waving too long in the brutal wind? Get up. Child, pull your bones up right. Gather your skin and your muscle into a patch of sunshine. Draw breath deep into your lungs. You will need it. For another day calls you. I know you ache. I know you wish the work were done. And I know you wish the work were done, and you, with everyone you have ever loved, were on a distant shore, safe and unafraid. But remember this, tired as you are not alone. Here, and here, and here also, there are others weeping and rising and gathering their courage. You belong to them, and they to you. And together, we will break through and bend the arc of justice all the way down into our lives.
Excuse me, I'm going to, knowing this, I will now use that mic stand over there so I can stand up. When I learned that today was going to be our last Sunday with Chris, I asked if I could express an appreciation and gratitude. And so to do that, I'd like to begin with what is definitely a forced and flawed analogy, hopefully not too inappropriate. In the 1960s, John Lennon was interviewed about forming the band that became the Beatles, and he spoke about the time in high school when he had literally 6 guitarists in the band and 2 bass players, and Paul McCartney, who was at the time a guitarist and singer, and John Lennon was the singer of his high school band. He heard Paul McCartney play, and he immediately asked if Paul McCartney would join the band, would be a part of John Lennon's high school band, because despite the fact that he had 2 bassists at the time and 6 guitarists, Paul McCartney was just better than everybody else and elevated the entire group, and that's part of what led to the Beatles. When I learned in November, I think it was, of 2019, that Chris was willing to stand in and be an interim accompanist for the church, a term that he hates, a collaborative musician, I immediately said yes, because I knew what he would be able to bring to our experiences, even if he was here for what was at the time intended to be 4 months. A little interim period for us. And between us, we have over 70 years professional church music experience, Chris and I. I bring 30 of those 70 years. And I was incredibly grateful for him coming in. But what I didn't know is how his presence was going to be helpful for me, because I had no way of knowing that everything I knew about church music was going to be made invalid in March of 2020. And skills that Chris had and long cultivated would come to the foreground and would be so essential to helping us learn to worship in multiple modalities in the interceding years. So I am incredibly grateful. We have a couple of things today designed to enlighten you to some of what you literally have just experienced in a live session here, as to the kinds of skills that a good church musician brings into worship and into a service. Among those, and so we're going to play a couple of games about them. Not your game yet. You're the last one. Two games. You're the second one. More about that later. So musicians believe that we can change the world with music because we've seen how music can transform individual lives. We know this to be deeply true. Good church musicians become experts in using music in real time, in real moments, to shape meaning and feeling and help lean into what are those transformational moments. And one of the things that Chris does brilliantly is helps to create and enable those transformational moments to happen by creating a coherence in the background that is at first blush just sort of like, oh, that was nice. Something that you may not have. I don't know how many of you recognize the fact that throughout today's service, unplanned, and I'll tell you what was unplanned, music just began to happen in the background. What is even more brilliant, and I'm not sure if it was intentional today or was, but it is when it is planned, is the way that Chris uses the music that is happening in the service and the words and thoughts that are happening in the service to create background music that not only just gives meaning in a moment, but literally gives a sort of film score, cognizance, logic, coherence, extra layer of meaning to an entire service. And by that, I mean things like what he plays in one key goes to the next key. If your music is based on key structure, notes on the thing, how it all logically lays out, how music is used to enhance the meaning. So a tune of a song that's going to be sung later in a service where the whole service is leading up to this one lyric of this one congregational song and this one moment. And the way that Chris sometimes will hint at that hymn in an improvisation in the middle of a prelude, and then underscore that in the joys and sorrows in a very different sort of mood and mentality. And then you finally get to the hymn at the end, and it's like, whoa, the heavens have opened up, because we've all not been aware of the fact that what we were really getting excited about was singing that hymn the whole service, and the sermon was about it, everything is about it. We didn't realize it till we got to the final hymn, and Chris knew it in advance and was leading us there that whole way. So I am aware of him doing that, and I'm aware that he sometimes does that in ways that I'm not even aware of, that I miss it. And so we thought it would be fun to play a little game with that ability that he has. So we've asked him to take 3 relatively well-known congregational songs and to disguise them, and so that we could all play a Name That Tune game. Test. Yay. This is more comfortable. Thanks. We have at least, I believe, one remote player that will be playing and typing in the YouTube chat for this. Bethany and I are going to try, and Jamili also is going to try, maybe. But we also would invite all of you to play. But he's going to play 3 songs for us, and when he plays the song, it's not going to be. He's at least not at first. It's not going to be, playing a melody that we hear.
Oh. How about let's play this way. When you know it, put your hand up. Can we do that?
Yeah.
Because then we'll give other people time. And also Julie Olson is offline. So we want to give, and YouTube's like 10 seconds behind us. We want to give
Okay.
her time to catch up.
Okay. All right. So, so Chris, would you provide us some song?
These are all things I've used at various points in services, and one even just this morning. So this is the first one.
I think you stumped us.
Can you make it a little more obvious? I'm having trouble. I'm close.
Yeah, we're too dense for this. Julie, any ideas on YouTube? Oh, Jim. Old Lang Syne? No. Carolyn. Amazing Grace. Oh, what?
That's Amazing Grace. Bring it back to Amazing Grace for us. Here it comes.
Okay. Julie got it in the chat. All right.
Yeah.
Try another.
So,
A little easier. Chris, this is too hard. Well, what's the song? Julie, any ideas? Pam, or Randy.
yeah, it's the we gather together to ask the Lord's blessing, but we use different words in the great hymn.
Okay, all right. Y'all are better than us. Okay. It was Julie, you got it? Yes, Thanksgiving hymn. Yes. Okay, Chris, can we have an easier one? I didn't think it was going to be this hard.
But this is so. I every once in a while I realize that, and partly it helps when we know when the worship team knows where the song's coming from, and that's one of the things that Chris always wants to know. He doesn't want to just show up and play a song. He wants to know all of the songs and the reason why they were chosen, so that they can lead. And that's because he does stuff like this all the time, and it's brilliant and it's wonderful, and it is partly why he is such an incredible church musician. One last one.
Well, this one's actually a twofer.
Okay.
Wow.
Twofer. You're trying really hard for us to get one of them. We're gonna miss you a lot, Chris. Where are we? Where are we going? Okay, give us the other one. What is the second one you had in there?
So
We have been rickrolled.
thank you. Oh, and I I forgot to say, of course, my analogy is forced a little bit in that it made me John Lennon, but it also made him the cute and talented one, Paul McCartney.
It's the hair.
What will you take from this place today? Will it be the message, the music, the inspirational words? And will you, can you, leave a symbolic part of yourself? An offering of the willing will be accepted with love and reverence. An offering will be collected to support the life and work of this congregation. If you are joining us on live stream, you can send a check to the office, give an online donation at uutucson.org/donate, or text 833-361-5796. If you are here in person, the offering baskets are by the patio door. If you would like to put your offering either now or on the way out.
Okay, let me power through some questions. I know we're going over our hour for those of you who like hour-long services. I'm gonna power through. We are new. Please tell us a little bit about you. I'm gonna invite you. I'll join you at a table at social hour. I'd be happy to tell you a little bit about me, but it's longer than I can get through. Hot or cold weather. Right now, I don't mind the heat. I don't mind dry heat. Humid heat, no thank you. Dry heat, fine. Are humans creating new life? I think the question is humans creating new life, cloning, AI, etc., and should we be? My understanding, robots scare me. On like a spiritual level, robots scare me. That's a longer conversation over social hours sometime. Do you think dinosaurs would have obtained human levels of sentience had they not been rendered extinct? I am no scientist or biology or evolutionary biologist, but no. If someone else has an argument, I would love to hear it otherwise. But also sentient dinosaurs scares me on a spiritual level. Favorite motivational quote? Is "you are not alone" count? That's my favorite. Y'all have heard me say that before. You are not alone. What pathways do we have for new attendees and others, UUs and UU explorers? I would also love to talk to you about new things. I think that with new folks, in this congregation, being a member is three things. It's sharing time with us, sharing your talent with us, and sharing your treasure with us. And if for the first year, I encourage, whether you're coming from another UU congregation or you are new to Unitarian Universalism, just spend time with us. Get to know us, figure out where your gifts match our needs. Just get to know where you fit here, because as you'll hear me say in different ways, being a part of this church is more about who you're working with and who is doing the work together, not necessarily just the work we're doing. So if you're social gatherings, and Judy Jessing is here somewhere. She's in the back. She's got curly gray hair and is wearing a blue mask today. She is our membership chair, and she would love to answer this question for you if you haven't talked with her already. Do you have something else for me?
I do. I have one. Well, it's a single card. I don't know if you can see me yet. There we go. Wait,
Come here, if you're willing. I don't bite.
Hi. Okay, so the first part, two-parter. The first part is, what did Otis have to say this morning? Otis is the little baby. He's out in the nursery.
He's 11 months old. He and Jesus were talking to each other and saying, "Gah, gah." They were talking about balls, and they were saying hi to each other. There's a green ball we were playing with here. They were saying hi to each other, and he was crawling everywhere. Otis is just had his first kind of big sickness and is just feeling better. So you know that like 3 days after you've been sick and you're like, I'm alive again. That's how he was this morning.
To be fair, sometimes Jesus and I say God to each other.
That's true. God.
Yeah. Okay. This is the last one. Do you know that we love you, Reverend Bethany?
I love you too in appropriate ways. And we need to remind one another of that. So thank you for that reminder. We have another game, which I think May is going to help us with.
It's related to a little bit of what we've done before. I asked Chris if he would write down 6 random styles of which you could play a congregational song in. He wrote jazz stride, bebop, bossa nova, boogie woogie, 70s cheese rock, or a high church style. So we compiled a list of 20 songs, and May is going to roll a 20-sided dice, and then we're going to use a 12-sided dice and call it a 6-sided dice. We're going to roll both of those, tell the numbers, and then Chris is going to play a song from the list, a song from the Gray or Teal hymnal in one of those 6 styles. We're only going to do a couple of these because we are short on time, but May, would you roll the dice and I'll announce what he's going to attempt to do. And he either will succeed or he won't. We'll find out. So our first roll is, okay. Oh, perfect. 14 and 11. So that means come, come, whoever you are in a 70s cheese rock style. So the song, for those of you that may not know it, is Come, come, whoever you are, wanderer, worshiper, lover of leaving, ours is no caravan of despair. Here he goes. We'll see what happens. I liked it. Can we do, May, would you roll us another roll, please? So this time we got. Okay, so this is What Wondrous Love, number 18 in the hymnal, in a boogie woogie style. What wondrous love is this, oh my soul, what wondrous love is this?
I'm glad you're all far enough away from the lightning that's probably about to strike.
like to do one last one. I realize that we are over, but I'm really having fun, so forgive me, but one more. This is our last one. May, would you roll us our last? Let's just see. Oh, can we re-roll two? I actually, just re-roll the red one. Okay. Oh, this was Blue Boat Home or Hyfridol in a bebop style. So bum be da 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 dee da dee da da be da 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 ya da ba da. I'm really gonna miss you, Chris.
May today serve as a reminder to young and old, tired and awake, checked out and tuned in, a reminder to never stop asking questions, a reminder to find joy in the playing, a reminder to be open to the multitudes of futures that improvisation offers you today. The future is not certain, but your future, whether it be minutes or years or decades long, your future is assured. And what you do with your precious life matters. May we all learn to make use of the time we have, leaning into relationship with community, growing towards our better selves, building the world we dream about together, and having fun, music, and play in the midst of it all. We have our chalice extinguishing words now.
Please extinguish your candles and chalices with me at home. Now, as we say our words of chalice extinguishing from Deborah Burrell. We have basked in the warmth and beauty of the flame of this community, and the chalice flame is extinguished. Let us carry its glow within us. Let us kindle new sparks within these walls and beyond.
Nice.
That was fun.
I'm glad you stuck all three.
Felt funny about the last one, but it worked.
Yeah, that was kind of an impossible thing, particularly coming from Lubo's home, as
Right.
opposed to the kind of more traditional.
We had to have a send-off for you. This is a good.
Thank you.
Really great. So, I want to keep doing stuff like
We will. I mean, like I said, we're going to be in touch and we've got all kinds of stuff going on. And as soon as we can start getting together and meeting together in person, there's a lot we can start to do.
When LP was director there, he and I would once a year, our singers would go there, and once a year his singers would go here. We did that for 3-4 years in a row.
I want that to happen at least once a year, if not twice or 3 times.
It's because it's good for both groups. It was a connection. So in the case of LB is a really good co-conductor for diction and voice production. That's his strength. And he
Well, the vocal side of things is really what he does.
Right.
That's his special gift.
And I, to the extent that I have a special gift, it's a lot of times it's cheerleading. It's making people believe they can do stuff that they don't.
Don't underestimate the power of that.
But there's a sense that it was different that both groups got something out of that exchange and it was also just fun. So anyway, thank you so much.
You're very welcome.
And obviously, it goes without saying, but from now on, if you ever need a recommendation, feel free to. I mean, this is going to be on YouTube, so this may be a recommendation in and of itself.
We'll see. Well, I've got my own YouTube channel, and
That was fun. We could do that all day.
don't forget to go to my YouTube channel, like and subscribe.
Yes. Go to his YouTube channel and subscribe.
All right.
It's mostly churchy stuff up there now, but I'm working to get some other stuff up too. So.
I also can't believe you written all this.
You were the one who suggested it.
I think it was Bethany or Jamili said it offhand, and then.
Well, but then when I was looking at it and realized that where do you come from? Never gonna give you. And they're very similar motives, just inverted. And I'm like, oh, this works. Well, that's what I love to do. I love that little perfume of tunes that get stuck in your nose, and then all of a sudden you hear the tune and you're like, oh yeah. It's inevitable. We've been working the whole service to get here.
We will miss you so much, but I know you're still around.
I'm not going far. I've got. Oh.
Just like your birthday, we wanted you to have the first piece.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Well, I mean, I will continue to show up occasionally, and y'all are coming up and saying that MVU, y'all, we're doing all kinds of stuff. So we're working. I have to have a choir going solidly at MVU, and I have a half a dozen really dedicated people who I really am grateful for. None of whom were choir members before, so I have no idea what's going on up there. And because we're not really, with their guidelines, we're not really able to meet inside, in person.